Happy Monday, everybody. Kurt Hofreiter here, and this is the second video I was talking about in regards to the turns of the sword. So I have the camera turned up a little bit here so you can kind of see me upwards here because I want to hit the right angle. But I want to drive a few points here when I talk about this concept. The first one is this. Turns of the sword, the only thing that is ever spoken about in the Getty, and as far as I'm aware also the Dosani and the Paris, all Fiore says is that the sword has the same 3 turns. That's it. After that, he goes silent. There's a reason for this, in my opinion. To me, it feels much more along the lines that because he's already explained that volta stabile in general is to play on one side, mezza volta is to play on 2 sides, and tutta volta is to play in a circular motion, that these types of concepts are unanimous within all his structure. So even though he doesn't talk about it, but he talks about the footwork first and what that actually does for us, well, that's where I start to see this as, okay, we're starting to see this as that this is a common concept. Now, as to what the plane means and what the right side and everything else means, that's a different type of thing to think about entirely. So what I'm going to talk about here specifically is my interpretation and what I am teaching presently for Fiore on Saturday classes. And again, we didn't get a chance to finish it all because we got pushed out of there, but we're going to get there, and that's totally fine. So let's talk about volta stabile handwork. What we know about the concept of volta stabile is it allows you to play on one side. So for a sword, one side to me is one-dimensional. Being here, this is one-dimensional. This is one-dimensional. That's allowing me to I'm playing on one side of my body over here. And just like this sword is turning outward, that's a turn. My weight is doing the same thing. The same thing is with the sword. This is a turn. It's a rotational motion. But I don't have to move much. I can stay in place. Now when I say to you that the sword does not move, of course the sword is in motion. But how it is actually moving does not really change. You have a position, it's going in the same direction, and it comes back the same direction. Going in the same direction, and comes back to the same direction. That's it. Okay? So because we have that, it goes in the one direction, it comes right back. The sword does not change in my hands. It comes right back the same way that it came. So when we talk about volta stabile, you're talking about not changing the dynamic, the plane, the side of the sword. Not talking about the true and the false edge. I personally think that what he's saying is, it's just coming down and it's coming up. The sword is not changing how you relate to it. Same thing with the guard. I can be here. I may be able to catch on this side. The sword, while yes, it's moving upwards, it's not changing because even if I come here, it's still the same way in my hand. Okay? Mezza volta. Mezza volta is allowing to play on 2 sides. So in this case right here, I believe this is achieved in 2 ways. First, you have the concept of coming down and coming up. In that, the dynamic did change. It went from here to here. So cut 1, cut 2. And all I'm doing with that is cut, up, cut. And that changed the direction of this arm. So down, up, down. This is shifting. You can see this if you look at plow, here to here. The sword is now changing in the dynamic to my body and my arm. Because it's angled off this way, and now it's pushing outward this way. If I struck like this, coming down, I'm hit it flat. So the body so in order for me to fight on this side, I have to change it over. For me to come over this way, I cut this way. This turn is your half turn. Now you notice the wrist is breaking. Here to here. In order to play on this side, it must change. With volta stabile, the wrist does not change. So your half turn is, you see that my wrist is this way, and then it's all the way over this way. Now this works going this way, because it's the same concept. Wrist this way, wrist this way. Wrist this way, wrist this way. So coming down, coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down through, letting it break. Such to another one. So instead of coming here and back up, it allows me to go here and then right back up into the other position. Boom, boom, and I can caught this right. All it's allowing me to do is down, up, down. So that's your mezza volta. The last one is your tutta volta. Now for tutta volta, this right here, like we saw about before, being able to do complete circle rounds. This right here, when I talk about passing through this way, that's still just playing on one side to the other side. It's just, you see the frame this way, and then I pop over this way, you see the frame this way. I cut down this way, and I cut down this way. It's the same thing. Here and here. That's all that it is, in my opinion. Tutta volta is when you start to see the whole total wrist to the opposing side again. And you'll see this a lot with later plays, where I may receive and then whirl around. Receive and roll around. Receive, and notice here, the wrist is breaking all the way around to a circle. I might receive and whirl around. Receive and whirl around. So in this case right here, you can see I'm coming up, this comes against, and then my wrist is rotating all the way around to come back down this way. Rather than just coming up, I come here, I've got a cover, I've got a block, I've got a strike, I'm striking in, and I just cut around to the other side. It's just using the wrist to rotate this way. This is where it becomes a little bit tricky. Mezza volta allowed us to go like this. Well, in the same context, mezza volta, volta stabile is here, right? Mezza volta is here. And again, and you can also pop up, because this is a mezza volta action, into this. You're allowing that wrist to break. When we start talking about guarding transitions, this is where I get things where I might be able to go up here and wind up. I might be up here and wind down. So you get much more of a circle motion of the wrist. You're getting this action. So mezza volta is a basic concept. This. Stabile, nothing. Straight up and down. One plane. Mezza volta is the break of the wrist. Half turn. Tutta volta. And this will go into places when we start talking about like posto di donna and why I can throw all 7 cuts, and you can utilize all 3 turns in the same way. So that's it. That's all I think that happens when we start talking about volta stabile, mezza volta, and tutta volta regarding the turns of the sword and why we start seeing this difference. So a recap one last time. Mezza volta, the sword is not changing. The moment I start turning like this, you're going into a mezza volta concept. So volta stabile is this. I'll say it one more time. I think I may have said that before. Volta stabile is this. No change. I might come up and down. I might catch, but it's me punching the sword up, right? So me going boom, 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 but the sword's not changing in my hand. Mezza volta, you're starting to see this. And again, remember here, if it comes around to this side, that is a half turn. So just like before, I'm here. These are half turns. I'm playing on one side, I'm playing on the other. Here, I break down here to this side. Pop up, pop down. Pop up, tap down. Notice I'm not going pop, circle, pop, circle. That is where you're starting to see tutta volta. Up, from up here, straight back down. But the wrist is the one that's changing. Up, down. Plane in motion. Circular motion, up, circle, down. Circle, up, circle, down. That is your tutta volta. So that concludes as far as what I was trying to convey on Saturday, and I apologize, it was not very well done, because we were also time pressed for everything else. But regardless, that is my interpretation of what we talk about when it comes down to the turns of the sword and how we can accommodate all type of movements based upon those 3 turns of feet and sword together. Anyway, we're going to be covering this more in greater depth come Saturday. Looking forward to training with you all again here. But I really wanted to do a deep down explanation as far as to what I'm explaining when it comes down to the turns of Fiore, at least how I see it. It's nothing crazy and it's nothing that makes things different. However, it's just anatomy. It's just anatomy. The wrist can do this, the wrist can do this, and the wrist can do this. That's all that it's talking about, in my opinion. And that changes the angulation of what you talk about the sword when in a very basic context. And it makes it a lot simpler and more lethal, in my opinion, because you're not trying to focus on all these other major turns and everything else by what they come to. You can break it down into longhand and find out exactly what it means to be. It doesn't mean that any other system wasn't already doing this. It just means to me that this explains why these things are the way that they are. So that's all I got for right now. Have a great week. Looking forward to Saturday training with you all again here soon. It's fantastic. Loving it. Really enjoying the Fiore class with everybody. So if you have any questions, message me, ping me, whatever you have to need to do. And until then, take care. Fight on.